Recorded in their mother's basement, Super Nerdland brings you Graded Point 5, where in a comic book it would be worth less than the polybag it comes in.
Hey everybody, welcome to Graded Point 5. I'm your host Jason. With me is the usual gang of idiots, Daryl.
Ah, fuck.
Dick.
Hey.
And Evan.
Howdy.
Now, we're done with the multiverse for a while. We may go back and revisit it some future point. But for now, we're good and done with it. I think we've seen what we wanted to see.
We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly.
and Superman True Brit.
Hey!
So, going forward, we're going to be changing up our format a little bit. We're going to be going through comics, usually things that have definitive ends to their run, but we're going to be going through them one graphic novel at a time. Just,
like 5 issues? 6 issues at a time?
Yeah. 5, 6 at a go, split up the run, go more in-depth with shit, So, for this first outing of this new style, we decided to go with something that at least one of us knows.
And I love you so much for it.
So, this is
Hellboy, that's nice.
week 1 of Hellboy. We are doing Volume 1, Seed of Destruction, which, God, how old is this?
1993, I think, yeah.
Dear God.
Right?
When everybody here but Daryl was a wee little man, if anything at all.
I was 2 years old.
I was 14 years old. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, Daryl, you're so old.
And it's actually 94, so I was however old I just said I was, plus a year.
Yeah, okay.
So you were 15.
I can't into math.
I was 10.
God, fuck all of you.
So yeah, Evan, why don't you give us a little bit of a lead in here?
Oh. Alright, so Hellboy, the series that the great Mike Mignola is known best for. He writes and illustrates the first 5 books of the series, or first 5 graphic novels of the series, I should say, and afterwards he gets a little bit of help. It is a massive series and Hellboy itself comprises only one small part of the Mignolaverse, where you got books like BPRD, which has 100-odd issues in print, Lobster Johnson, which has 30-odd issues in print, my favorite series, the super pulpy, cheesy one. What else? There's like a 5-part issue about Rasputin coming out, who we're going to talk about today. There's a 5-part issue about the Iron Prometheus, who heavily features in other series. It's not a small series, and it all ties into each other. It's consistent plot, story.
Tons of lore.
Yeah, there's some pretty serious lore. And we're starting right at the beginning. Not in terms of the series chronology. Like, the series chronology dates back to the 1800s with the Witchfinder books. But we're starting with the in order of it was written chronology. It all started with Hellboy. And it all started at an English church.
But
go ahead.
Art by Mike Mignola, script by John Byrne, colors by Mark Chiarello, cover colors by Dave Stewart, and yeah, go for it.
And one thing to sort of note here is this art, as somebody who's read a shitload of Hellboy, the art is a little, like, it feels a little off relative to the rest of the series. Not off in a bad way, just not quite the same. In that Dave Stewart's not doing colors throughout the whole book. And a lot of
it's a lot of flat.
Mm-hmm.
It's really flat at points in this in terms of coloring.
Now, this isn't like our entry to Mike Mignola. We've done a couple things of his before, like Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment.
Right.
So we're used to this art style.
Yeah, we're used to the tactical blacks,
right,
if you will, where like 80% of a page will be black.
Yeah.
and the rest will be lightly colored with the exception of the text boxes. You guys want to just get into the plot?
Well, before you do, I just wanted to mention that I do think the art is kind of a refinement of his work on like the
Gotham
Doctor
by
Strange
Gaslight.
book. Well, no, no.
Well,
I
Gotham
would
by
say
Gas-
that like. Yeah, Gotham by Gaslight was a later production.
Chronologically speaking, Doom and Strange Triumph and Torment came first.
Right, and this is an evolution of that art style. Like his art back then was a little bit more traditional, and
A little more
this
realistic, yeah.
right. And it's funny because this
better.
does have its own realism in a way, like in terms of lighting and shadows and stuff. It can make his kind of sketchy art look a little bit more grounded and stuff. But yeah, anyway, that's something we can talk about a little later. But you want to head into the plot, I suppose?
Yeah.
All right. Evan?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're at the wheel,
Let me
brother.
just get my chair all positioned right here. All right, so we
Right.
start off in England. We've got a certain Broom, or Professor Trevor Buttenholm, but everybody calls him Broom for some reason. And we've got some of the other main players in the Hellboy series. We've got a Dr. von Klempt, a German man who eventually becomes a head in a jar type character. We've got a certain wizard, Rasputin, that Rasputin, the Russian, the one who was hanging out with the Tsars and the Tsarinas. Rah rah Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen, all that good shit. We're introduced to him, von Klempt, and several other Nazi characters. One of the hallmarks of Mike Mignola is that you're always fighting Nazis because they look really cool. So, Rasputin, along with these Nazis, is trying to summon something into the world. They're not really sure what it is they're trying to summon, but they're trying to summon something, and it just so happens that the thing that they're trying to summon is a little demon boy. But their summoning sort of fails. They, try to pull him out of wherever he is at Stonehenge, but he ends up in a church in, halfway across England. And he's not adopted by the Nazis. He's actually pulled in by the American soldiers and a character, the Torch of Liberty, who's not allowed in any future Hellboy
Isn't that because John
Burns.
Yeah,
because he's John Burns' character. And you can sort of tell that if Mignola kept writing this with John Byrne, the Torch would have been there a lot longer. But not super relevant. So we jump to the future. Nice little house. Looks like it's which city is this in? Does it matter?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. We got some really cool stuff on the walls. Looks really spooky. And we meet an old Broom, and he's seeing Hellboy. And we hear about an Arctic expedition that failed. And help me out here.
And Broom lost like 10 months of his life after awakening something.
Right, which does play out later. We do understand why. But yeah, he comes back from this thing kind of a little bit of a shell of a man.
Yeah.
And I think the coolest point, or the coolest part of this whole little bit here is when Hellboy's having his internal monologue about, like, he's like, everything's fine and you look good and stuff, but he's like, in his internal monologue, he's just like, man, this guy's aging in front of me. He's,
Yeah.
It kind of humanizes Hellboy.
So, and that's one of the other things. We do see that Hellboy, despite looking like a demon, being, cloven-hoofed with a tail, 2 giant cut-off horns on his head, he is ultimately a human. And we are introduced to some frogs. Sir, you've got frogs. Just laconic as humanly possible. Hellboy introduces the villains.
And isn't me or the frogs a recurring theme in the Hellboy set?
They're absolutely a recurring theme. Plague of Frogs is what we're going to be reading. A Plague of Frogs is what we're going to be reading about for like the next few books. And if you read the BPRD series, you read about a Plague of Frogs for about 150 books.
Yep.
So Broom gets attacked. We don't see what, but he shows up with a bunch of pucker marks on his face. Looks like he's attacked by an octopus or something. And Hellboy, being the simple man that he is, just a wee lad, dives right into the action and starts to get the shit kicked out of him by a giant frog.
Again, another really big recurring theme in these books.
Right?
Yeah, Hellboy dives into action.
I love this line. I love these lines. I'd be the first to admit that I have no shortage of faults, but if I had to pick one, the one that's gotten me into the most trouble over the years, be that I sometimes get angry. And so he jumps into head first into action, you know?
Yeah, and into a completely black room where he gets ambushed by a massive frog.
Yep.
And we've got a nice little fight scene here. Hellboy introduces us to his right hand, which is a giant stone hand that he can swing with the strength of a sledgehammer. And he destroys some artifacts while, trying to blow up a frog.
And doesn't the hand, not feel pain, too?
Right.
Yeah, it's basically a weapon attached to his body.
And what I like about it is we get really no explanation for the hand yet. You know, like the right hand, it's just a big stony hand.
From what I remember, it took years for them to finally say what the hand was about.
Right, which we're not going to yet, because that's getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, mostly because I don't know, because I haven't read that far into it.
Oh.
Yeah, well, the movies give us a little bit better idea.
Yeah.
Right.
But, so we'll progress here. He manages to kill the frog thing. It disintegrates into what looks like the shell of the acidic shell of a human, and it melts. So Hellboy clearly knows that something weird, something paranormal is going on. So he calls the bureau where he works, the BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense. And they pretty much say, well, shit, you killed our leader, Broom is dead. That kind of sucks.
Oh, it says right there, this is all taking place in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw a bridge, and I didn't want to say whether it was the Brooklyn Bridge or the
Golden Gate.
Golden Gate, yep.
But now we know.
The Golden Gate is underwhelming compared to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Good to know. I've only been out west. So we jump into the next set of scenes here. We've got Hellboy and his two most iconic companions. Ms. Elizabeth Sherman, and Abraham Sapien, aka Abe Sapien, who I also failed to mention has another 60-odd book series.
And then several minis.
Yes.
I fucking love Abe, and I love how he's introduced in this.
Yeah, Abe, who, for those of you who don't know, is an amphibian gentleman. He is very similar to these frogs that we're fighting.
Literally named, was it Ichthyosapiens?
Yeah, Ichthyosapiens, yep.
And they named him Abraham because I guess he was found...
The note found by where they found him listed Ichthysapien,
Right.
and then the date of Abraham Lincoln's assassination.
Right.
Yep. So 1800s, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything to say that Abe was found in a pseudo test tube sort of deal and brought back to consciousness. So we're introduced to this older lady, a Mrs. Cavendish, And we hear about her father, Mr. Elihu Cavendish. Some really nice background pictures here. We learn that Cavendish was searching for something in the Arctic, but failed. And we learned that she has several sons who, I guess, tried to follow in their father's footsteps here. And clearly something is afoot. We don't really know what it is, but something is clearly afoot. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Rasputin surrounded by a field of black. Anybody have anything to add?
No, you're nailing it pretty good.
So we go through, and Liz is introduced. And since I haven't introduced Liz yet, Liz is a pyrokinetic human. She has the power to generate fire spontaneously, and we're introduced to this in a pretty interesting drawing where she's lighting a cigarette with her fingertip, and we'll see a lot of her smoking cigarettes and lighting cigarettes with her fingertips.
Not gonna lie, when the first time I saw that, I was just like, that'd be the only thing I'd do if I had pyrokinesis. Dude, could you imagine that, just sitting there, like, light up a cigarette with the tip of your finger? Or better yet, to stick your finger in the bowl and hit it?
I was going to say, can you light this bowl, bro?
Yeah!
Yeah, and you just torch it all the way down.
Well, no, she does have eventually a finer level of control.
Right.
Yeah, the problem is that everybody keeps trying to unleash that. Everybody keeps trying to...
Yeah.
Well, the full extent of her power.
Another classic trope in Hellboy. Push Liz over the edge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which pushes Hellboy over the edge,
Like,
usually.
I've read a lot of BPRD, but I've only read like 5 or 6 solo Hellboy outings with her.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it just seems like that's a major plot point.
She's there to be fucked with.
Yeah, she's there to be like the next big weapon for the bad guy manipulating her, and then it backfires.
Yep.
Every time.
Yeah, and as you read more of the BPRD, you start to understand like why in the canon she is so powerful, but we shouldn't really get into really get into that. The really weird world building stuff. At least just yet. If we stop reading Hellboy, I'll do like a bunch of spoilers here.
Yeah, we're at least going to cover probably the first 5, maybe even further.
All right.
Just to see how it goes, see if there's interest within the group here to keep going with it. Because if there is, we'll just keep going until fucking the cows come home and then switch over to other fucking parts of Mignolaverse.
Right. Oh man, the dream.
Now I can tell you, like, from what I've read so far, this is something I definitely want to keep reading. I don't know how much I'm going to want to talk about it in the future, though.
Well, let's put it this way.
It's going to depend on the stories, I suppose.
There are 25 volumes of Hellboy.
Right.
That includes Hellboy in Hell.
No, that does not include Hellboy in Hell. That's just what I have here.
Oh shit! All right, then we're in a good spot then.
And that's where it wraps up, right?
No, wraps up in Hellboy in Hell.
Right. Yeah, Hellboy in Hell is where it wraps up. That's
what I'm saying.
I only have access to 3 volumes of that, so.
Okay.
All right, so continuing on with our story here.
Yeah.
We see a disguised Abe Sapien with a cute little brown beard, and Hellboy talking about how they knew one of the men.
The butler.
Yeah, the butler. Oh, Cavendish's it's always the goddamn butler.
Cavendish's butler.
Yeah, and they knew that they knew him from before. A picture. He was part of the expedition that went north with Broom to the top of the world, the North Pole,
and
unleashed some weird shit. So, Hellboy, being the bold fellow that he is, tells Abe that he probably should swim under the house and see what the hell's going on there. And he gives Liz a call and says, look, there's something weird going on. And right before he can say, get the fuck out of there,
Liz is like, there's frogs in my room.
Yeah. And he's like, oh shit. And yeah, by the time he shows up, of course,
By the time he shows up, he runs into the butler, who turns into a frog knight with like a really great little Animorphs sort of sequence.
Yeah.
During a countdown.
And I love the art in this, those 3 panels.
Yeah.
Hellboy sprinting through the dark and then grabbing the butler in silhouette. Yeah. Really good stuff. And then him punching out a frog that looks like Lizard Man from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With
the morphing
tongue.
panels, man. Just those 3 panels alone. I love them. Such great art. It seems kind of sketchy on the surface of it, but it is well executed. Like sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just
No, you're
this.
good.
I dig the writing. I dig the characters, but I fucking love his art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I can't get enough of that shit.
I'm totally with you there. As the series progresses, go ahead.
Right.
I just want to say, the way that Mignola uses detail as a storytelling mechanic is very interesting, because a lot of the story-heavy panels where there's a lot of dialogue going on and not a lot of action, the art style gets a lot more simplistic. It's very simple shapes that remake up the characters in a way that they look good and they're still recognizable and distinct, but it's simple enough that the focus is on the dialogue. Whereas in fight scenes, it tends to get a lot more detailed. For example, when he's fighting the frog beast the first time, after he explains about his arm being a stone weapon and everything, it gets a lot more detailed to show off some of the combat. And I love that, because it subconsciously makes the reader focus more on the dialogue and the story, or on the action, depending on which is going on.
That's a very good observation.
Yeah, seriously.
And it's so clever how he does it too, because he does it in such a way that it's not obvious. It's not there the first time you go through it. You really got to think about it. And
it wouldn't
that's
have
what I
occurred
like
to me,
about
man.
it.
That is a really good observation.
And I just have to say, even when he does his understated, simplistic style, it's just gorgeous, because everybody is very them. It's very easy to tell that Hellboy is Hellboy, etc., Abe is Abe, and all that. And it looks so good while still, being able to tell the story. And then you get the detailed panels that come on, and the combat and stuff, and it's just great. And it's a great balance between the two, because I feel like a lot of comics, especially in the 90s when pouches and belts were super popular, way too detailed.
Hey, Jason, take a drink.
From things.
Call back.
But you know what I mean? Like the overly detailed, over stylized art pulls away from the story and distracts me, typically speaking.
And then on the other end of that spectrum, you've got the overly simplistic art where everybody just kind of, mushes together into an unrecognizable mess. So it's cool that he's able to do that, even with the more kind of like simplistic art where he's relying a little bit more heavily on shading and stuff to kind of cut back on detail and stuff. It's still really well done.
Well, they say you should be able to recognize any character, like a good character, you can recognize them by just seeing their silhouette. And that's almost always true in the Hellboy universe. You always see Liz as like a kind of a bulkier woman who's always starting a fire. You always see Hellboy as like a waist with giant shoulders.
Right.
And you always see Abe as like super tall, lanky, and amphibian in his posture.
Now, the other thing I really like about Mignola's art is the entire fact that it's background optional.
Right.
He only draws background when it's character interacting with it, or it's an establishing shot.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it never detracts from the story or the panels. Like, I'm looking at this one with Hellboy standing over the frog beast, and there's no background, but you don't care because you're focused on Hellboy standing over the fucking frog beast. Like your eyes are drawn to what you're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah, the only time you see the architecture is when Hellboy's being bashed into the architecture, and the architecture looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's not bashing through it, or being bashed into it, or jumping from the second story to the first story, it doesn't matter. And it's just there, to establish, like Jason said.
Yeah, and I think that is a really effective way of drawing your eyes to where they need to be and focusing on the details of what you're supposed to focus on, instead of getting lost in intricate backgrounds when they're not necessary and shit like that. And plus, like, these panels straight up take place at night. So like, that low visibility actually works in its favor and shit. It's just really clever fucking art. Really good stuff, man.
So, back to the story. Hellboy fighting a butler. He transforms into a lizard or a lizard frog thing with a tentacle tongue that can basically like stun you. Like, yeah, it's poison. Right. It'll stun you if you touch it. So he just kicks the shit out of this frog, beats him out of a window, jumps after him, clobbers him with a giant piece of pottery. And all of a sudden realizes that that he sent Abe out of a window 5 panels ago, and sort of has an "oh shit, I just let my friend maybe die" moment.
Right, I maybe sent him off to his doom.
And we get a few shots of Abe exploring, but Abe is not quite dead yet. And Hellboy keeps exploring his part of the house. Abe is underneath it at this point, like in a weird chamber that he's legit underneath the house. There's a strange chamber like 60 feet under the house. And Hellboy is exploring the upstairs and finds that Miss Cavendish has been sucked dry by the frogs. And we meet Rasputin. We meet him properly for the first time, and he starts to tell Hellboy of his past. Tells him that Hellboy is his son. He is Hellboy's master, his true father, and that he was summoned from the shadows using Nazi technology.
Now, refresh my memory before you go on. He never refers to himself by name, right? It's only due to the backstory he gives to, in this. It's only due to the backstory he gives that people who kind of know what, the historical character was said to have gone through, it's only through that we are given context for who he truly is.
As Hellboy, yes. He tells us a couple times that he's Rasputin. But yeah, Hellboy doesn't know who the fuck he is at this point. He just knows that he's this he's this wizard who claims to have brought him back or brought him into this world from wherever he was before. And Rasputin clearly has some crazy powers because Hellboy gets picked up by what looks like the giant frog tongue. So some classic Cthulhu giant tentacle things flying through the floorboards. And he's stunned, and clearly he's stunned so that Rasputin can tell him, can exposit for us of Hellboy's past. So yeah, Hellboy falls into a different underground chamber than the one Abe is currently exploring. And we see some weird Aztec symbols, which are another Mike Mignola classic. Aztec and like a mixture of all of these ancient symbols sort of rolled into one weird mythology. And we're told, and speaking of weird mythologies, we're told that he was called to stand by Rasputin at Ragnarok. So there's our Viking mythology. We've got the Aztec mythology in all of the background pictures. We've got the African masks in Broom's house at the start.
A sarcophagus.
We've got like the Roman-looking statues and architecture. So yeah. Mike Mignola clearly, steals and borrows where he pleases. If it looks cool, it gets in there. So Hellboy's like being told, here is your purpose, here is your destiny. And his response is, as always, I'll pass. And Rasputin's not going to have that. Hellboy shoots him in the head. And realizes that shooting him in the head doesn't kill him. And we get some weird hellish runes as text. So I appreciate that. Clearly, it's a magic spell, and Hellboy is thrown across the room. Doesn't know how the hell it happened. So, now help me out here. What do we got going on next?
So you got the inevitable, showdown between Hellboy and Rasputin. A little bit of the bants back and forth. Rasputin's like, never raise a hand to me. I am your father.
Does kind of hint.
Yeah.
Does kind of hint at the right hand. He hints at it holding a greater power than Hellboy is aware of in it. So, but I just wanted to mention that because that is something that's going to come up.
Rasputin's got some just top fucking shelf evil villain dialogue.
Yes, he does.
He bade me rise, bade me fulfill my purpose, and in visions of a world transformed by Holocaust and fire, showed me what that purpose is. Yeah, he's fucking evil.
And Hellboy's just like, right, I'm gonna kick your ass now.
Yeah, okay, you're telling me that it's your destiny to lead mankind into its falling? Well, okay, fuck you. Fuck you, pay me. And
so Sven Olafsson, in his continuously mutating frog form, shows back up, and
our butler friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he picks a fight with Hellboy, and Hellboy sort of gets his ass kicked.
Oh, yeah.
And Abe keeps exploring, manages to find the other frog brothers who don't seem to be quite so inhuman. Yeah.
They're mourning their dead mother.
Yeah, they have some humanity left in them.
Before you move on, can I just say I really love this bit of dialogue here, though, when Hellboy's like, you're offering me what? The chance to be your junior partner, and thanks, I have other plans, and Rasputin's like, nah, that's not a choice I'm offering you. He's basically like, yeah, no, this is kind of like your destiny, so fuck it. Get in line, motherfucker.
Yeah, and I guess we should also mention that Rasputin hints at the Dragon King, the giant titans that live in entombed in space, or imprisoned in space is probably a better word for it.
Yep.
Sleeping but not dead. That which, sort of like Cthulhu, that which is dead will never die, or that which is not dead, or yeah, it's dreaming. I'm probably confusing that with
Dread Cthulhu lies dead but dreaming.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, they're basically like giant Cthulhu level Lovecraft gods, and just to hammer that point home, like the dedication is basically to Jack Kirby and H.P. Lovecraft. So definitely seeing a lot of Lovecraftian influence in here.
And if you actually look at his action, there's a lot of Kirby in there too.
In Hellboy, or in the fight scenes?
In the fight scenes in Hellboy.
Yeah.
Like, even some of the line work, like, I can see, like, Fourth World shit in it, Especially, like, I'm looking at this one picture, Abe's face, when he's down in the crypt and he sees the frog people.
And if God choose, I shall...
Yeah, the panel right above it.
Death.
Tell me that does not look like something from Jack Kirby.
Oh, absolutely.
No, it looks like Space Kirby for sure.
Yeah,
like a space alien that Jack Kirby would draw.
Like New God shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's yeah. I can see that. I bet if you asked Mike, he'd be like, yeah, I took some inspiration from Kirby. I mean, who didn't?
I mean, he dedicated his first book to Jack Kirby.
Did he? No shit. I should have read the dedications then.
Yeah, it's Kirby, Lovecraft, and his wife.
Well, there you go. Whoops. I gotta admit, folks, I don't read the comics we do. I just show up and...
None of us ever actually read these. We're just making it up as we go along.
Yeah, if this is a work of fiction. If it happens to coincide with reality, it was unintended. No, but yeah, so...
Yeah, back to Abe.
Yeah. So Abe's slinking around in these caverns. He sees the frog people who still have some of their humanity.
They're huddled over the corpse
I sense
of their mother.
a kinship with these strange amphibians is something Abe says, and that will sort of ring true throughout the whole series. Abe is always sort of more to an extent than Hellboy. Abe feels like he is a monster. Hellboy feels like he's a human. Abe, not knowing about his childhood, being awoken from a pod, always feels more alien, and we get that here too.
That, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Abe apparently has some sort of empathy base.
I was gonna say, doesn't he have isn't that kind of part of his skill set, so to speak?
Yeah,
he's empathic kind of qualities.
Yeah, not like psychic empath, but
more of an instinctual.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he is.
Gotcha.
He's a much more empathetic character.
He's just got heart.
Yeah, he has heart, where Hellboy has a giant fist.
Right. Okay, so Hellboy tends to look at things pragmatically, whereas Abe looks at them more kind of emotionally. And
Yeah, and that there's and we'll maybe get to this. There's a lot of the BPRD series, a lot of the Hellboy series. Abe is out of action because he doesn't feel like he should be in the field.
Oh, okay.
Where Hellboy absolutely feels like he should be in the field to the point where he leaves the BPRD and does a bunch of weird shit all on his own.
Gotcha. So he throws himself at problems.
Yeah, Hellboy finds problems and has problems follow him, where Abe is trying to avoid them.
Cool. So that's an interesting contrast between the two characters.
Yeah, and arguably the two main characters in the franchise, or the verse.
All right.
So Abe sees a painting of Elihu Cavendish, a pretty decrepit one.
Oh, dude, that's not a painting.
No, that's just him.
I know.
That's him.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, another thing about the Hellboy universe, clearly the paranormal's real.
Right.
It's not. I'm not going to tiptoe around it. It's clearly paranormal. There is a demon with a giant right hand made of stone fighting frog gods. And
a Nazi wizard.
And a Nazi wizard.
A Nazi wizard who used to be the lover of the Russian queen.
Yeah.
No less.
Yeah, a Russian medicine man, an undead Russian medicine man who happens to be a wizard. Yes.
And he was really about as much of a Nazi as I am, Swedish.
Best plot ever.
That's the big thing about Rasputin in this is he pretty much says straight out, I never believed in him.
Oh no.
He's an opportunist.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't he essentially tie himself to Hitler because of Hitler's interest in the occult?
Hitler had access to the resources.
Right.
Yeah, and he was willing to spend it on the occult.
Well, not only that, but he also knew that there were some people there that could have possibly been worth his time to shape into people that he could use, but then the Nazis got fucked, basically, is what happened.
Mm-hmm. So, Hellboy's kicking the shit out of, having the shit kicked out of him by this giant butler frog. And Hellboy is not really winning.
In fact, they're saying how close he is to losing.
Yeah, he's like, I hope this thing doesn't realize how close it is to winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Rasputin basically says, look, if Hellboy's dead, he's not useful. So, don't kill him. And then Rasputin tells him of his past, where we don't actually hear that he was Rasputin, but we do hear that he worked for the Nazis, manipulated them into giving him resources, and tried to, convert the Nazis he could to his side, including the aforementioned head in a jar, my favorite.
With the giant monkey.
Yes, with the giant monkey. Yeah, we've got giant gorillas.
And my favorite, Cronin.
Was he the guy in the movie? The guy in the gas mask?
Yeah, Carl Rupert Cronin.
Yeah, he's great too.
Yeah.
In fact, pretty much all of these Nazi characters are great. Like, even the little stoogey fuck.
So it's Elsa and Cronin in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Elsa's in the movie too. She's a blonde, tall, beefy woman. And you've got Cronin, who's like the Darth Vader with the gas mask character.
Yeah, and then he got stabbed and some sand came out. It was weird shit. I don't know.
Yeah, he's sort of a robot character, if memory serves. I don't really remember much about him.
Yeah, but we will find out as we read, I'm sure. There's plenty of that, I'm sure.
So we hear that the Nazis were supposed to summon Hellboy, but he wasn't summoned the way that they thought, and that the Nazis got their ass kicked before he could recover Hellboy. Were you going to say something, Daryl?
Oh, no. I was going to say let's carry on, and you did, so...
All right. Perfect.
Well done, sir.
So we move up to the Arctic. Giant sheets of ice. Probably Greenland. Based on the geography I'm seeing here. And we learned that Rasputin doesn't eat like a normal person. He consumes souls to progress. So he lured a bunch of poor travelers and turned them to skeletons so that he could reach this temple of Saduhem, who help me describe this.
Lovecraft on crack.
Yeah, that works. It looks like
it looks like a Shoggoth.
Yeah, it's a bunch of. It's got like it looks like if a beetle had a bunch of tentacles growing out of its back
and parts that were plant matter.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
And tentacles and no visible like body parts at all other than like legs, like no head, no thorax, just this mass.
Oh yeah, and hundreds of eyes, all located sort of in one spot, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a pleasant statue that he finds.
Oh, and the statue is quite alive.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's one of those, you see a suit of armor and you know that somebody's in it moments.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced to the seven beasts, the seven dormant dragons. They're dreaming. They're dreaming out in space and just dying to get their writhing tentacles out of their prison and back onto Earth. And we're told that the frogs have something to do with them, but it's not entirely made clear.
Oh, you missed an important part.
Tell me.
Rasputin had been in like this trance, communing with Saduhem and the beasts for so long that his body just sat there, and eventually some humans did another expedition.
Oh, gee, I wonder who that could be.
A certain Professor Trevor Broom happened to touch him and wake him up.
And we also learned that he happened to summon them there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like they were going to go up there anyway. Maybe it was like they were just going to go up there anyway. But the reason they were just going to go up there anyway is because they received their psychic summons by this Russian wizard. And we more or less learn that the only reason Broom was allowed to escape in the first place was because of his connection to Hellboy.
Yeah, he'd go home and summon Hellboy.
He'd go home, talk to Hellboy, lead the frogs to Hellboy, and then the frogs would lead him here. What he didn't count on was that it would also lead Liz there. He didn't know about Liz. So, like every other villain in the Hellboy universe, they try to control Liz. And Liz fuels this ugly mass of chitinous limbs and tentacles.
Oh, the Saduhem?
Yeah, the Saduhem. She manages to bring Saduhem back to life.
Which is really neat, because it still appears made of stone, but it's definitely shown as something that is shifting and constantly changing.
Mm-hmm. And we're told that she is more or less fueling whatever life force it has in there. And then we leave on a cliffhanger, and we're told that hell is coming here. Hell is coming to Earth. Hellboy says, "Go to hell, Rasputin." Rasputin says, "No need. It's on its way."
Yeah, hell's coming here, baby.
And goddamn, is Saduhem big? Did I mention that this thing is probably like 100 feet fucking tall and constantly growing?
Yep.
I probably failed to mention the fact that every time this thing appears in a new image, it's like twice the size that it was. And that Saduhem is going to release the binding on the Ogdru Jihad, the 7 beasts, and that they're going to rule the world. And there's nothing you, Hellboy, you, Liz Sherman, you, Abraham Sapien, can do about it.
Now, I have a conversation-destroying question about the Art Adams
References?
characters. Yeah. What's that comic?
So
I feel like I should know it.
In this particular graphic novel, we've got some original art by Mignola, where he's just drawn Hellboy as like a convention piece or whatever, with like a little Art Adams inset with the...
Yeah.
What comic is that, Jason, with the blonde and the gorilla?
Oh, son of a bitch, you asked me.
Yeah. See, I know this one.
I've read it. That would be... Son of a bitch.
Monkey Man and O'Brien.
Yes, I love fucking Monkey Man and O'Brien.
See, I knew it was Monkey Man, but I couldn't remember the rest of it.
I can never remember her name.
It's literally been since like 1995 since I've seen those characters referenced, man. It's
been about since 98, 99 for me.
Yeah. So fuck, man. I kept looking at that insert. I assumed that there were backup stories in the original issues featuring those characters.
Hellboy was the backup story.
Oh, was it? No shit. It was the other way around.
What was it? Dark Horse Presents?
Yeah, Dark Horse Presents. Yep. So
okay.
There's like 2 issues of Hellboy that are in Dark Horse Presents, and then Art Adams clearly took a liking to it.
Yeah. Because I kept seeing that, and I'm like, I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't remember.
If you've got the same version of the graphic novel I do, you see the 2 little Dark Horse Presents right at the end. Not sure whether...
No, we're working on a different one.
Yeah.
All right.
Does yours have the little backup stories?
Yeah, mine's got the little backup stories.
Yeah, ours. Okay. Yeah, we don't.
Because those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, they're the... Mine's... I mean, just the... So my version of the graphic novel doesn't have the backup stories for the individual issues of the Hellboy. It's got the backup story, the original 2 Hellboy stories in the back.
Yeah. And I do want to say, if there's another artist that I like as much as Mike, it's going to be Art Adams.
Oh, definitely.
I've always loved his shit. And I remember reading
so much damn detail.
Right. I remember reading an old issue of Wizard. He actually had one of those little art class inserts and shit about how to add the detail and the shading and stuff. And he was like, the more detail you can add, the better. Like with the fur and the wrinkles and stuff like it was really cool stuff. And I've always had a soft spot for his art sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, anyway, sorry for derailing.
He uses black a lot less than Mignola, but because that's space that you could add detail. But
But then I'm gonna link something in the chat here, and I want you guys to take a look at this. And this is. Gotta say that. I mean, that's kind of some fucking amazing artwork,
We got the image of Monkey Man and O'Brien with the plesiosaurs.
Yeah. It's just hyper detailed stuff, but the detail works. It's But I'm sorry. The whole time I was reading this, the whole time I was reading it, and the whole time we were looking through it for reference here, I just kept fixating on that, and I'm like, I should know this. You know, like I know it's Monkey Man and something. So I wanted to get that out of the way before it sent me, to the insane
But God,
asylum
there's
again.
a series I haven't thought about in almost 20 fucking years. Man.
Yeah, right. I think we should maybe one of these days
Try to get a hold of it.
Yeah, and
find
maybe
something?
do an aside, like do a few weeks of Hellboy, and then maybe venture over into this just for a little breather.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
See what we can do. Let's finish summing up the story so we can do the
thing.
final thoughts and wrap this thing hopefully in an hour.
Yeah, buddy.
So we got the Ogdru Jihad being unlocked by Saduhem. Saduhem is still growing. We see a giant light blow through the ceiling of the house. And eventually out into the stars, where it cracks the stony prism of one of these 7 beasts. And while this is happening, Hellboy is desperate to change his fortune. He manages to find a little flashbang, a little
Concussion grenade.
Yeah, a little stun grenade. And he manages to pop it on the frog creature. We get a weird little inset where we've got some like space aliens monitoring the giant
These
imprisonment.
designs look really familiar.
Well, they all look like Abe.
No, I'm saying like the full armor and everything.
Yeah, I have no idea what those are from. Maybe that's from another Byrne story or something, but we've got some really, like, way too well-designed aliens for only appearing in one panel. And we see a crack form in the prison. And as that crack forms, we see Rasputin's giving his spiel, his tremble before me spiel.
Kneel
And we see
before
some
Zod.
blood. Yeah, we see kneel before Zod. We see some blood drip out of his mouth. What? And we see a giant
He got
spear through his
harpooned.
chest. And we see Abe in a trance.
You realize the problem here.
Yeah.
The man took a fucking round from Hellboy's gun, dead to the face, and is kind of pulled back together. This spear is knocking him through a loop.
Right. Well, maybe he was more vulnerable during the little ceremony there. Or maybe he'll come back again.
All the spear needed to do was
Distract him, really.
Right.
get him to not control Liz and let Liz go Firestarter. I don't think she means to. I think he's releasing her power and then loses control on it. And when Liz loses control on her power, it's explosions everywhere. It's fire for miles.
Well, I mean, put it this way. She blew up Saddam.
Yeah, she blew up the giant, we're looking at like a 200-foot tall Saduhem at this point. A Lovecraftian mass, a tower of writhing tentacles and like centipede legs. And everything goes up in fire, as awesome Aztec background included. And Abe and Liz escape up a staircase. And we get one of the most iconic illustrations in all of Hellboy, with him and Rasputin with a giant flaming hole in his chest. Going full Banshee on him.
Breathing fire, baby.
Breathing fire and trying to tell Hellboy that he will never understand the power inside of him and that he will never escape his destiny, which Rasputin believes is to be his underling. I will see you crawl before me. This is not the end. And Hellboy's response is, well, it is for you.
Right.
And he crushes his skull.
I like that. You'll never understand the power inside of you. Yeah, but I'll live with that.
Yeah, I can live with that. Exactly. Sort of Hellboy's sort of motto, like running from his destiny by punching his destiny in the face.
Yeah.
And the house explodes. And yeah, we sort of get a nice little epilogue. Liz is smoking a cigarette again. Abe is, again, being an empathetic figure. You were alone with him. Did he say anything? Hellboy just doesn't say shit. And we see the other Nazis awake. And that's pretty much the whole issue. Oh, and the version you guys sent does have the little shorts in the back.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I think we got our wires crossed.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, those are just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Hellboy fighting a giant puppy, and then then him fighting an Art Adams gorilla with the separated Nazi head.
Yes.
Herman von Klemt.
Yes.
Now, see, when you were talking shorts, I thought you were talking something entirely different.
Even shorter? Yeah, no, there's a few of those.
No. I thought like we were talking original issues where these showed up as the shorts.
No. I've looked through the original Dark Horse Presents, but yeah, these are like the original two short issues.
They're great. They're both great stories. Fights Anubis, or at least something that thinks it's Anubis, or calls itself Anubis. And it's a real quick
dog.
story.
It's a giant, like, junkyard dog. It's a giant Rottweiler.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta say, my favorite part about this whole thing was the gallery.
Oh,
for two reasons.
Everybody else is drawing Hellboy?
Simon Bisley and Mike Allred.
Now, I liked getting a taste of the original kind of Hellboy drawing, before it was Hellboy, just something he happened to call Hellboy, and then kind of seeing the evolution.
The Art Adam one didn't pop you?
Absolutely it did.
But I've got a huge fucking boner for Simon Bisley and Mike Allred.
Yeah, okay, Allred's is really great with him and
Madman.
Yeah, and Madman and Abe walking through a cave. That's great.
I'm not too familiar with Bisley. Did he do...
Oh,
what did he do that I know?
Some Lobo back in
that. Now, see, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm familiar with him from. I love the Allred one with Madman.
For like fucking 2000 AD.
Gotcha.
Shit like that.
That is definitely not the best of his work, though. That Hellboy.
Oh no, but it's still competent.
Sure it is. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just definitely not like the best example of his work. I do like the Art Adams. They're all fucking great, actually.
You like the Frank Miller one too?
Even that one's not bad because I think his style kind of fits Hellboy. It's
his use of shadow.
Mm-hmm. And I just love the black and red composition and shit on that picture. That's some sick shit right there.
Yeah, where he's not even like lying about the fact that all it is two solid colors.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's very evocative of fucking Sin City in that regard.
Which is another one we will be doing down the road, possibly even after Hellboy.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. The art is top notch. The storytelling's great. It's just bizarre enough for it to keep my attention without going too far out into absurdity to be weird. It all feels really natural.
Yeah, but see, I think with a premise like this, you can go as fucking absurd as you want to, and it still feels okay.
Oh no, definitely. I'm just saying though, this being the first major story arc for Hellboy, this was exactly what it needed to be to introduce you to everything. And I think that because it doesn't go too far, it does a really good job of pulling the audience in and making them, understand this is the universe, this is where we're at. Let
me ask you something. You don't think Nazis, a resurrected Rasputin, Cthulhu-esque demons, a demon ripped from hell with a right hand that's made of stone, a lady who,
frog.
yeah, giant frogs, like a ghost.
It's just right at the edge
yeah.
there, dude. It's teetering on the edge, but it's
I just want to know what you think is absurd.
You should see my sexual dreams.
Jesus.
Oh, I'm glad I
but
can.
it's weird. But there's they leave themselves plenty of room to get even weirder.
Well, yeah, and it's and it is grounded in its own reality. You know what I'm saying? Like all that shit works together because it makes sense. There's nothing that's out of place. So even though it's all over the top crazy shit, it's not absurd.
Yeah, in the setting. Yeah, in the setting. That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, I knew that's what you meant.
They could have gone way off the deep end with this first outing, and that might have put people off, I think. But the way that everything is presented, it in universe, the logic is all sound, and everything is, through and through explainable and makes perfect sense.
It does ease you into it, too. Like, so it can later go more absurd if it wants to. But as it stands now, it's crazy, but it's not too out there that it's off-putting. So
yeah, it's no crazier.
It eases you into the world.
Yeah, it's no crazier than your standard Marvel or DC comic.
Right.
It's a more ambitious story, but it's not. It's no different than I can take this because I've read Batman or I've read Superman or I've read Iron Man comics or et cetera, et cetera. It's just the same level of absurdity that Marvel kind of was on. That it's like, okay, well, this is an easy transition and it lets the audience transition into this new universe pretty easily, coming from a sort of a classic comic cape and cowl sort of background.
Yeah, no, we even sort of see that with the progression of the story. It starts out with all we're introduced to is like Hellboy's origin is Nazis tried to create or bring a monster into this world, and instead they brought a little boy. That's pretty typical comic. He's raised as a human. Okay, so we know he's a good guy. Oh, and he fights a giant frog thing. Okay, well, that's pretty normal. And then only later do we start getting into the guy who led the Nazis is a wizard. He's got a fire starter best friend. Oh, there's a giant frog thing that hangs out with him too. We don't dive into all of that right off the bat. We're eased into it in such a way that and there's a giant Cthulhu thing. And eventually we're going to be like, oh, there's like giant frogs taking over there's tons of frogs taking over the world. So as the story progresses, the world progresses in such a way that it doesn't turn you off.
Could you say it's like the frog in boiling water situation?
Yeah, the poor lobster.
Hey.
Oh, hey, there's a lobster too.
Eventually.
Yeah, he's the best.
But yeah, no, like this whole book was just fantastic, and I'm really excited to read more Hellboy, I'm not gonna lie.
It's fun, and that's really all I'm looking for.
No, that's the most important part, is that it's so fun.
Yeah, like, we can get into the deeper, like, themes and shit. I'm not particularly interested in that myself. Like, that might make for a good conversation, but what really interests me about this book, and any book really, is can I sit down and just lose myself in it, like, and have a good time while I'm there? Like, and that's what this book fucking does. It, like, draws you into the world, it gives you a taste of some interesting characters and stuff, and intrigues you enough that you're kind of on board with seeing where they go next.
And then there's a big red guy punching things.
Yeah. I just love the design of Hellboy, and especially as Mignola draws him, like this big, beefy motherfucker with these tiny little... Like, he skipped leg day. This motherfucker skipped leg day, but... but I think that's what... He's just a visually interesting character, and the use of shadows and shit to... kind of draws him out a little more, makes him even that more visually interesting to me. And it's just just the way he acts, like you said earlier, he fancies himself a human. He conducts himself like a human, and he's got aspects of his personality that he considers flaws and shit, like his being quick to anger and stuff, which only further humanizes him. Like, even when he's fighting against these larger than life creatures and shit, he's still like, he has that everyman kind of quality about him.
Well, it's because he just takes a beating. Right. Like, in every fight, the Hellboy takes a beating. So be ready for that.
Right. And that's the thing, though. He takes a beating, and he still keeps going to the best of his ability and shit. Like, he is that kind of, like, that working man type character in the sense that he sticks with it. He keeps going. It's I don't know. He's just a really fascinating character, made more so by that kind of juxtaposition of his origin and who he presents himself as being.
Yeah. We got anything else we want to add?
I think it's great, and honestly, if anybody listening to this hasn't, by chance, read Hellboy, fucking start here.
Yeah, good time to do it. With the movie coming out next year.
Yeah,
year after next.
Well, basically next a year and a month from now.
Yeah. And if you dig this shit that we're talking about here, and you like good comics, you owe it to yourself to give it a look. And the great thing about these books too is, honestly, you can find them at fucking libraries and shit. Like, most joints will stock the Mignola stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely checked out the omnibuses at the library before.
Mm-hmm. So, consider checking it out there. I mean, and then if it interests you, fucking go from there, man. There's a world of stuff here to
yeah, there's literally 25, 30 years of Mike Mignola's life poured into the Hellboy universe.
Yeah.
Now, to end this all off, because we're going to have our ending spiel just be automated after the episode. Recently we had Thanksgiving, and Dick was actually at my house for Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
And we went trolling through the city I live near, and we found a new comic shop called Archaic Comics. They're on Highway 5 in Douglasville, Georgia. Go give them a check. They're a really good place. The owner is fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Very cool guys. They have all sorts of really cool comics. Wall comics are nice and affordable. They have graphic novels. They have graded issues for sale.
Yeah, Daryl, there's a graded issue I'm thinking about going and picking up next month just to hopefully make you and Wayne a little jealous.
What?
First appearance of Apocalypse.
Nice.
And it's graded pretty decently, too.
It was a decent grade, and it was only like $55-$60.
At least, yeah, I mean, as long as it's not 0.5, we're doing good.
Well, as long as it's graded better than we are.
Yes, exactly. I mean, by default, I think everything is.
But yeah.
Like everything.
They wanted a shout out, so here's the shout out to Archaic Comics.
Yeah, and they deserve it from what you guys were telling me the other day, Of course, our conversation was kind of short, but it sounded like you guys had a good time checking the place out, so.
Oh yeah, I could have spent so much money there.
Oh, easily, same, yeah.
Man, see, this is why I need to move. There isn't any of that shit here. Like, if I want to go to a comic book shop, I have to go out to Santa Fe, and that's if that joint's still open. Like, I don't even know if it's still open, man. Like, we don't have any arcades. I don't even think there's a bar around it. Well, there's one bar.
From the pics, it looks like these guys got some good tabletop. Got some good tabletop. Got some good board games too.
I need this in my life.
I'm with you there, buddy.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jason. This here to say, if you enjoyed the show, spread it around on social media. And follow our social media presences on Facebook and Twitter, both at Graded.5. Just spell the whole thing out. Also, support your local comic shop and the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. If you don't know where your local comic shop is, there are sites like findacomic.com, and that'll help you find it. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you next time.